It's always a good day when the critical drinker uploads. Let's enjoy this together, shall we? Haven't seen it yet. Ow!
If you are a rational thinking person, you have to at least consider the possibility that God hates these people.
Nerderotic.com.
Greetings, you over 1 million
Possible.
hellions and the 40% who haven't subscribed yet. In the aftermath of Tinseltown getting its ass thoroughly kicked in the great cultural shift, it seems that some people who work in the industry and their comrades in the access media, far too late, I might add, have finally realized that Hollywood is broken. And now they are openly wondering if they can reverse this state of entropy. But before we get to the consequences of the entertainment industry's 8-year woke bender, we have to go back in time a couple of months to an article titled How
Yeah, it hasn't been great. We've lost a lot of good IPs over the last 8 years. Especially Star Wars.
Hollywood lost the culture war. Now, that'd be a great title for a YouTube video.
definitely
Don't
lost
mind
a
if I
lot.
do someday, but no, it doesn't come from me. It comes from the Los Angeles Times. Keeping in mind your time is valuable, considering that this article is a tome, it can be best summed up with a few bullet points. It admits that Hollywood is the de facto public relations arm of the Democratic Party. The LA Times also essentially admits that entertainment has turned into a platform for influence. They will say it's for social change, some will say it's for social engineering. They will say it's to inspire marginalized people and underrepresented groups so they can feel seen. Others will say it's creative bankruptcy, subversion, and propaganda. Ultimately,
I believe all of those things can be true at the exact same time. You know, I do believe that some people have good intentions, but fundamentally, it doesn't matter who it is. If it feels like someone is preaching down to you from a high horse, I'm not going to like this movie. There's a reason I don't watch, as a Christian, I don't watch Christian films. Okay? Because if I want a sermon and be spoon-fed exactly what the author thinks, I will go to church. That's what I go to church for. That's not what I want for my entertainment. And so I don't really care who does it. But if you preach to me, I'm no longer entertained, and I'm out.
Los Angeles Times had to confess it was cringeworthy. And yes, they do blame Hollywood. It's time to admit that the losers in the culture war have brought this on themselves. Let's give credit where credit is due for the Los Angeles Times. Not bad so far, but as with all of these articles, it's when they get to the summation. Sure, they mention all the other factors, including but not limited to, and you've heard them all before, so let's get through them quickly. The multiple shutdowns due to COVID and the worst time strike in history, churning out content instead of entertainment, the corporatism, and the streaming bubble burst. And those are all aging yet still valid points.
But like a poor marksman, you keep missing the target.
Because according to the LA Times' Matt Brennan, Hollywood wasn't trying hard enough. It would be tempting to conclude that Hollywood should heed post-election autopsies inveighing against magic words, radical chic, and going woke. He claims everything bad about going woke is built on a convenient fiction that's backed up by study after study after study, showing that diverse storytelling and diverse audiences are sound business, not virtue.
I feel like history has proven that to not be true. It's like these people live in this little bubble where it's just like, oh, we have, oh my God. And like, okay, first off, do I think diversity matters? To an extent. It is not the most important thing. You know, for example, y'all can't complain about how men have been emasculated in film if representation of men doesn't matter. So clearly representation matters to some degree, because if it didn't matter at all, well then you would have no basis to complain about how straight white men have been represented in film for the last 10 years. They killed masculinity, as Anthony Mackie correctly points out. And so, yeah, it can matter a little bit. It doesn't matter above good storytelling and making something that everyone can enjoy. And
Never mind that study after study after study came from the paragon of objectivity, the University of California at Los Angeles. And now it's accusing Hollywood of pandering to conservatives by rolling back progress it hasn't actually made.
Really?
In other words, it needs to DEI harder. Listen, I've been critical of Hollywood for a lot of things, but you can't accuse them of not trying to DEI hard. And let's not forget they almost gave an hombre Best Actress at the Oscars, and we will get to that. I just want to say, dude, I was rooting for you. Despite all of the Access Media and Tinseltown's introspection or navel gazing, there still seems to be a giant missing link in their theory. Let's keep in mind, Hollywood's mantra last year was survive until 25. So let's fast forward to today. Novocaine with 8 million leads lowest grossing weekend of 2025 to date. Box office, Novocaine tops worst weekend of the year with 8.7 million as audiences numbed by new offerings. Novocaine leads another painful weekend at the box office. Jack Quaid and Robert Pattinson led the worst weekend at the box office in decades. As sequels like Captain America and Paddington fall short and original films like Black Bag and Mickey 17 struggle when
And they're good actors too. Robert Pattinson's a great actor, but I heard the movie was mid, and so I didn't feel like going to see it. I am, however, going to see Snow White tonight, not because I care about it, but because I want to be a part of the conversation. And so subscribe if you want my review of that film. I'm sure that will be incredibly fun. And by the way, this channel is about masculinity and culture and how we find where we as men find ourselves in modern times. And so that's kind of like what I like talking about. That's what I'm interested in. And of course, I'll be sharing my journey and discovering my own manhood along the way. At least we're finding it in a way.
With a box office rebound. And I can hear you now, and you'd be right. We're only halfway through March. That is true. We're also 2 weeks away from the end of the first quarter. And considering what they released and what they're going to release in this quarter, to be fair, maybe the mantra was, we'll survive until a little later in 25. It doesn't help that you released 2 Jack Quaid movies within 2 months of each other. One was pretty good, haven't seen the other. It also doesn't help that Mickey 17 completely bombed despite a good performance by Robert Pattinson, but ultimately it was brought down by its incurable TDS. This will be a theme for this video. But the one film that was supposed to be the big hit of the quarter is now officially a flop. Captain African American. Side note, it's a flop even with Disney's bullshit numbers, with Variety ultimately admitting it's one of the worst performing Disney Marvel films of all time, despite Collider saying it's one of the top 100 action films of all time, and MCU updates calling it the 31st highest grossing Marvel film. And to add insult to injury over on the streaming side, the bane of Hollywood's existence, Disney Marvel's Daredevil, which I've kinda liked so far, has actually underperformed to the tune of being beat out in the same time period by The Acolyte, which was canceled. So it's no surprise that Hollywood is a little shook right now, and they should be. According to David Poland at The Hot Button, who said he really had no interest about writing about another weekend at the box office this week, and this was prior to this past weekend, it's simple math. It's the 3rd weekend in a row under 100 million overall at the domestic box office, and worse.
Ow. Well, that sucks. You know, I love film and I like movies, but I like good movies and good films. And there's actually a lot of good stuff to watch right now. I'm not interested in eating Hollywood's garbage crap. I'm not interested in being preached to about your agenda. And there's a difference between being preached to and just flat out. There's a difference between being challenged and preached to. Attack on Titan is a challenging show with themes of morality and war and genocide. There's a lot of challenging stuff in there, but I never felt like I was being preached to. I always felt like I was being entertained, and in the background, I was simultaneously being challenged as well, which added to the entertainment. If you're going to challenge someone morally, it should always, and everything has to serve the entertainment experience. If you're going to, make a movie about, social commentary, the challenging of morality should always enhance the entertainment experience. As soon as you start preaching to people, you're screwed. I'm out. I don't care. The only reason I'm going to see Snow White
These
is
3
so I can talk
weekends
about it.
have all been under 80 million. The most recent 2 both under 55 million. Well, we just so happen to have an update on this from The Hollywood Reporter. Can Tinseltown make it 3 weekends in a row with the domestic box office total under $55 million? It's hardly typical to see a weekend where not one picture crosses $10 million, but this weekend's result is an estimated 54.7 million in overall domestic box office revenue. I knew you could do it. Things have gotten so bad that Hollywood is actually relying on Snow White to save them. I wish I was joking. Yes, the very same controversial Snow White that had initial box office opening projections between 63 and 70 million, which were reduced to between 48 and 58 million, and it turns out they're going to be happy with that. To say theater owners are counting the days until Snow White opens wide is an understatement after a miserable few weekends at the box office. Or how about this one? Things are so dire, the godless heathens are thanking God. Thank God for Snow White next weekend, right? Who knew with that movie's controversy we'd be saying that? However, the industry should be thankful. If Snow White pulls off a 50 million plus opening with that $200 to $300 million budget, but to be fair to the theaters, they don't care how much Disney paid for it. They need to sell popcorn for what has been a barren desert of business right now. And whose fault?
Oh, and guys, when I got my Snow White ticket, there were 4 people in the theater. Granted, it's a Thursday night, but when I went to purchase my ticket so that I could torture myself and sit through it so that I could give my opinion on it, which please you should subscribe for, please make it worth my time. There was like 5 tickets sold. It's not looking good. And with a less than 50% Rotten Tomatoes score, once the audience reviews start coming in, if those are low, it might hit even lower than what they're estimating. Like, the movie has to be good to have legs. Like, yeah, you can have movies, you know, like Mufasa that start with 50 million and then keep going to make, you know, $500 million or whatever it made. Only if people really, really like it and keep going to see it. If this movie sucks, people aren't going to keep going to see it. It's going to bomb hard. Like, really hard.
What is that? This is my favorite bit. The Hollywood Reporter, who wrote the last article, wrote this one 4 days previous. Inside Disney's Snow White troubles, they need to get this over with. Disney's live-action Snow White reboot starring Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot seemed like a can't-miss project 5 years ago, but have some PR missteps combined with anti-woke outrage turned marketing the film into a poisoned apple. Shout out to Team Poison Apple. I don't know, Access Media, would you consider disrespecting the film that created Disney and in turn disrespecting Walt Disney by calling it dated?
The cartoon was made 85 years ago, and therefore it's extremely dated.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so.
Which in turn didn't just piss off one.
And you know, and the sad thing, that poor kid felt so confident, Lisa. I guarantee you, she was just repeating what her producers had told her and what the culture of the film was. I can almost guarantee you everyone who was in charge of that film felt that way and spoke those things. So of course she felt very, very confident just saying that, because that was probably just what they were all saying, what they all thought. The only problem is she's the one who took the brunt of the reaction. I mean, of course she got herself into trouble saying some other stupid stuff about other things, but there's not a single doubt in my mind that what she said there is an accurate reflection of the opinions of everyone who actually worked on that film. And so it's not just her fault, but she's taken most of the heat for it until Disney loses money. And they will.
One political sect that pissed off the entire Disney fandom, telling fans who don't agree with their political takes to unsubscribe and wishing half the country to never know peace. Are those missteps?
And if you disagree with this sentiment, just hit the unfollow button. I don't need your business.
Are you sure about that?
Just little faux pas that led to the canceling of the premiere in the UK, shutting down the American premiere to the press who would have been friendly to them, and only allowing in-house Disney people. But I have to give Disney credit on this one. They actually managed to shut Rachel Zegler up, which is the best move they've made. Now, does this move disappoint 1,000 YouTubers? Yes. Do I think for a minute that she'll stay quiet, especially if the film bombs? No. Will the press paint the fans as the aggressor and Rachel as the victim? Well, the BBC has already planted that seed. Will Snow White be a victim of its own moment? How the Disney remake became 2025's most divisive film. It's like the old song says, the wheels on the bus go round and round. Snow White to me just looks like yet another creative bankrupt subversion of a classic, but I have no idea whether it's going to be woke or intersectional or not, but it looks like the Access Media might have an idea. The female skewing live action event pick, which remakes Walt Disney's cherished 1937 animated classic, has been under fire for years on social media due to a combination of the film's progressive creative decisions and star Rachel Zegler's controversial comments, while also suffering from culture war attacks that seem doggedly determined to torpedo the perceived woke film no matter what. To me, the actual film's performance is irrelevant at this point because the overall brand damage has been done. No, not just to Disney, to Hollywood, because Rachel Zegler and Snow White are a microcosm for what was and still is woke Hollywood. She made herself the poster child for it.
Weird.
But I am not without sympathy or empathy, Hollywood. I get it. You've been through hell with multiple disruptions, whether you brought it on yourself or there were acts of God, a pandemic, strikes, fires, AI, DEI. While the studios are backing away, the Film Actors Guild just doubled down. And all this has played a part in the entire Hollywood ecosystem collapsing. The entertainment industry has become a subsidiary to the tech industry. Theaters are suffering, broadcast is dying, film festivals are fading, and award show audiences are dwindling. Speaking of...
And podcasts are going up, which is the perfect time for me to announce that I am restarting up my podcast on this channel. We'll be talking about masculinity, culture, religion, politics, all of that fun stuff. Kind of a broad overview podcast similar to Joe Rogan, because might as well step in and try to fill some of the void. If you're not going to watch Hollywood films anymore, you may as well subscribe to my channel and watch some of my ridiculous antics. And besides, why not, right? I can't be that bad.
That Hollywood came within a hair's breadth this year of ending award shows forever because Amelia Perez was going to sweep, including giving a dude the Best Actress award. And the only reason that didn't happen is somebody magically unearthed some salty tweets from Carlos Sofia Gascon. And now they're making the poor guy go on an apology tour. Carlos Sofia Gascon commits to continuing to learn and listen. Or Carlos, Carla says, you will always find me on the opposite side of fanaticism, imposition, and the patriarchy.
That ain't no woman. It's a man.
Okay, and we'll stop real quick to say, what if just all the woke stuff disappears? Well, then you have to deal with the problem of creative bankruptcy. There are certainly going to be some pretty big hits this year, including Lilo and Stitch, a remake of an animated film, and How to Train Your Dragon, a remake of an animated film. You're not exactly innovating or breaking any ground. It's the equivalent of rolling out what's left of the Rolling Stones for another tour. Anywho, this brings us to the biggest problem in this scenario, one that the audience already knows, so forgive me for repeating it, but this one goes directly to Hollywood because it's a problem you haven't faced or even acknowledged. And this just so happens to be the most underrepresented, marginalized group in this entire equation, the audience. You made the same mistake as the political party that you love to support. You lost the working man and woman.
I've been saying this since the 80s when when movie ticket prices, they were $5 forever in America. And then all of a sudden they started moving up to $6.50 and $7 and $7.25 and $7.50 and all that stuff. This is a working man's art form. Yeah. It's not opera, no, it's not theater, it's not going to a big concert. It was the idea was that anybody could go and see a movie. That was one of the reasons why movies flourished in the 30s. And it's
my Snow White ticket, $17 on a small screen. I mean, it's not IMAX or a big theater or anything. $17. I live in Canada, by the way, but $17.
Not anymore. Really? We have priced them out until now it's a deal.
By their own admission, Hollywood is broken, and there's no better evidence than needing to rely on yet another Snow White remake to get you through a weekend. Tinseltown now will be a good time to figure out a way to apologize, reconnect with the average moviegoer who also happens to be the paying customer. It's something I don't think you're capable of doing, but if you don't, then maybe it is the beginning of the end.
Nerdrotic.com.
Yeah, it might be the beginning of the end, but there's still a lot of good stuff coming out. Severance is good. Parasite is good. Attack on Titan was very good. You know, Invincible is good. The Boys is good. House of the Dragon is good. You know, like there's still good stuff coming out. It's just, it's on streaming right now. You know, Daredevil is pretty good. I'm enjoying it. I'm happy with it. I haven't bothered with Star Wars in a long time. But yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't get super excited or interested about a lot of films. You know, if Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four are good, then I'll be really, really excited for Doomsday. But I'm not excited for the Star Wars Mandalorian film. I'm not excited for all of those things. I just feel like, honestly, I feel like there's better stuff to be had on streaming where I can just sit here at home and enjoy Solo Leveling, right? Like, I can enjoy animation out of Japan. I can enjoy great shows like Arcane. You know, like there's so much, there's actually a lot of really good stuff out there, and I don't feel like I don't have enough to watch. I just don't have anything to watch from the typical Hollywood sources, such as movies. And so I don't feel like there's a lot of big movies coming out that I'm interested in. But there's a lot of smaller foreign, you know, shows such as anime or Hellbound from Korea. I like a lot of Korean TV nowadays. There's lots of good stuff out there to watch. It's just not coming from the source that it was when I was young. You know, when I was a kid, it was Star Wars, Marvel, and DC, and Lord of the Rings. And now I don't get none of my favorite stuff that I actually look forward to watching on a weekly basis comes from any of those IPs. Like, not as, except for right now, Daredevil is shaping up to be quite good. I haven't watched episode 4 yet, but yeah, Marvel is the one that's closest to keeping me. If Thunderbolts is good and Fantastic Four is good, then I could still be excited about Marvel. It's going to take a lot for me to be excited about Star Wars. And I hope that James Gunn crushes it with DC. I would love to be a happy comic book fan again. With all that being said, if you enjoyed the conversation, if you enjoyed my takes, and we are aligned ideologically and somewhat politically, maybe consider subscribing, helping a brother out, and I will do my best to bring you guys even better content going forward. Thank you so much for being here, and cheers.